Okay, so let's create some a water effect. So I'm going to drop a plane in here, and we can come up here and just click that to drop a plane. And I'm going to go to my move tool, and I'm going to hold V as in Victor. I'm going to grab that top arrow, and I'm going to move that as low as it'll go. And then I'm going to scale this up. And if I come to my main camera view, we can kind of move this frame a little bit better. Okay. And this should be sitting, yeah, perfectly kind of matching with that. Okay. This is what we want. So this is great. Okay. So we want to attach like a little makeshift water to this. So this is what we're going to do for that. Let's go to our attribute editor. And we could do this with bumps and displacements, but I'm just going to go ahead and just physically do it. So if you run into any issues with this, let me know and we can look at some lighter ways to run this, because we could run it through like bump or subdivide at render time and do displacements. But I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and just subdivide this a bunch in this view. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I've got the polyplane selected, and let's just rename that to water. The water plane selected, and I want to come to this polyplane 2 tab, and I want to change this to, let's try 300 subdivision width by 300. We may even want to do more than that. You could leave this at 300. I'm going to push it and go for 500 though. Maybe not. Let's do this. I'll back that off to 400 by 400. Yes. Okay. So it's basically saying that it's getting a lot of polys, and am I really, really sure that I want to do this? And I'm like, yes, I want to do this. I'm going to go to my render cam. I'm going to scale this water down as much as possible. I think that's going to be okay, and if I need to move it, that's totally fine. I can move it. But I just want to kind of get as much detail as I can, like just straight into the scene. All right, cool. I'm going to go back to my main perspective. And now I want to come to deform. I want to come down to texture deformer. I want to change this to, well, I'll keep that at UV and we'll change that to normal. Okay. The next thing we want to do is we want to come to this texture and we want to click this little checker box. And we're not going to use a file this time. We're actually going to use one of these nodes. And so there's a few ways that we could go about this. We could try a few different nodes to do this, but I'm going to go with the ocean one. So if I click ocean, cool. I've now got like an ocean attached to this as a deformer. And if you look real closely, you might see something, but honestly, I'm not seeing a lot. So I want to come back over here and you'll see this texture deformer handle. So I want to go back to my texture deformer. And then I'll click on the texture deformer tab. What I want to do, let's raise this to like 100 and see what that does. Now when you do this, like that's going to jump off the screen. It's going to go like really way high. But you can see like what's happening. It's now actually giving us like some ripples and things like that. So I'm going to make this offset half of this and negative. So I'm going to go negative and 50. And that wasn't enough. So let's do negative and 100. All right, cool. I think that has got us pretty close. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to be able to affect the strength, but it looks like this is going to be just the inverse of that. But I don't want to type this every single time. You totally could, so you could ignore this next part that I'm going to do. But if you want to make this a little more procedural, we can write a simple expression. So The way you do that is you right click on this box, and then we're going to go to create new expression. And then I'm just going to type offset is equal to strength times -1, and then put a semicolon. And then I'm going to go to create. And it's going to write all this extra stuff for me. All right, cool. So this should allow me to add more and it not shoot off the screen, and then me not have to like type that stuff all the time. Cool. Okay, so from this point, I want to change some of the water properties a bit. So let me do that again. I'm going to come to texture, and now there, instead of a checker box, because we attached the ocean to this, we want to click this little arrow and that'll take us to the ocean. And so from here we have like the ocean properties, so we could change this to 5. Or if we want more ripples, we could change that to 20. Okay. So we could do something like that, or maybe we want a lot of ripples and we could do like 30 or even more. You can totally play with this. You can also play with things like the wave height. So you could like come in here and carve like different types of waves and things like that. I'm going to delete that little thing, and I'm just going to bring the intensity down a little bit. And then I don't want to get into all this, right, because I know I've shown a lot, and this is just stuff that you can play with. The one thing that we could do, though, is we could animate our time. So let's do this. We could actually set keyframes, or we could write an expression. And I'm going to write an expression. If you want to set a keyframe, you could click set key, then come to frame 120 and change the time, and then right click and set a key again. That would be the simplest way to do it. But I'm going to write another expression, so I'm going to right click and go to create new expression. I'm going to type time equals time times 1.5. Okay. And let's do 1 space plus time, and let's put those in parentheses and then put a semicolon, just to put a little offset to it, just to get us started. Okay, I'm going to click create. Okay, let's delete that. It didn't like that expression. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to copy the whole thing. Instead of just trying to type time, I'm going to copy this whole thing. Should like it better if we do that. So I just copied this and then I just pasted it down here. And we'll put equals time times 1.3 semicolon. Let's try that. Let's see how it likes that. I'm going to click create. Okay, so this could go too fast, and if it does, we'll just need to edit that expression. So I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to click play. And now I can see that I'm getting some rippling water, but I get a sense that it's not playing very fast, but I get a sense that this is going pretty quick, because those are some pretty big movements. So I'm going to right click on this. So I stop that, and then I just click the double arrows, go back to frame 1. Now I'm right clicking on this, and I'm going to go to edit expression. And now let's do 0.3 and click edit and close. And now let's click play. And so it's still moving. It's just moving at a much slower speed. And keep in mind, this is going to play 24 frames a second. And it's kind of going slow because this water plane is pretty big. But I have a feeling something like that is going to work better. And if it doesn't look good, I'll give you guys some better numbers in class. But I think, just kind of as a rough educated guess, I think that's going to work okay. Now the next thing we need to do, because let's rewind this. This doesn't really look like water, right? It's got the waves and stuff, but it looks like a gray little plane. And so we want to set up a better shader on this to be reflective and that sort of stuff. So let's take a look at that. And actually, I'm going to click on this because I think this is just a little too heavy. I'm going to come here. I'm going to take this down to 200 by 200. And I'm going to click play, see if that moves a little quicker for us. It is a little bit, but it's still fairly slow. Okay. Another thing I'll do is I'm going to click on this water plane, and I'm going to come to this water shape tab, and I'm going to come down to an area that's called Arnold, and I'm going to scroll down inside Arnold, and there's going to be an area called subdivision. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to turn on Cat Clark. So what that's going to do is that's going to smooth this at render time. So we can leave it a little chunkier, and then we'll smooth it at render time. So yeah, I think that'll be nice and kind of keep it a little lighter. Okay, so let's get a water shader on this now. So let's come back up to our hypershade, and we want to come and click on this area that's called Arnold, and I want to scroll down, and I'm looking for the AI standard surface. So let's see, there we go, AI standard surface. And again, if you have a hard time finding it, you could just come up here and type in AI standard, and there we go. We can see the standard surface. Okay, and it's popped it in there. So I'm just going to click the double arrows, and then I'm going to call this, I'll keep the AI in there, but I'm going to call it water. Cool. I'm going to middle mouse drag it onto the plane. And then over here, I can come and change like some of the properties. I hate that the weight for the color is at 0.8. I don't understand that, why they do that. I always turn that up to 1 before I do any work. So I don't want to get into trying to talk a bunch about shaders and stuff. So let's see if we click on this presets. Let's see if there's a good preset in here that we could just use for water. There's some deep water and some clear water. Let's try the deep water and see what that looks like. So I'm going to go to deep water, and I'm going to go to replace. And I don't like that. Made that transparent. I don't want that. So I'm going to do Control Z. Okay. Oops. I clicked on the plane. I could click through here until I find the AI water, but you can always also just come back here and click on the water. Let's do the presets, and let's see, was there any other options? There was clear water. No, but these are fun things to play around with. Like if you want to play around and kind of learn about shaders and things like that, you could do that. I think the clear water is going to do similar stuff to the deep water. Yeah. So I'm going to do Control Z. Get back to the shader. And so we're just going to have to design some of this ourselves. So I'm just going to bring that color down. Maybe we'll make it a kind of a dark blue. But I really just want that. Weight. Actually, we'll put the weight up and just have it super kind of like a dark blue. Okay, specular, we'll leave the roughness kind of high. Yeah, let's try that. See how that's working. Okay. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to just click this little blank clapper, and I'm going to see what we get. So right away, we kind of got something that's kind of okay. I don't like the way that this is shining through. So I think that's kind of what we'll work on in the next video, is kind of trying to get this render to look better, and then we'll talk about getting renders in and out of Maya.